Hello, gorgeous ones. I know you can probably hear my cat crying in the background. He always comes about 15 minutes before his dinner time. Every day he tries it. And I know that if I give in to the 15 minutes in a week, it'll be an earlier 15 minutes. So I'm trying to tough it out here and win the power game. um, but he never hesitates to tell me how he feels about that. So I'm really sorry if he's meandering and meowing around in the background here. Yeah, it's just part of living at home with opinionated critters. Okay, so do you remember the old song, Dem bones, dem dry bones? Do you remember that? It teaches kids about the skeleton. It came out in the 1920s, and it was one of these songs that it talks about the neck bones connected to the thigh bone. Well, not literally, but you know what I'm saying. It's one of those songs that kind of connects the human body together, and it's a bit of a silly thing, really. But kids loved it. I loved it when I was a kid. And it popped into my head a few days ago, quite randomly, which was bizarre to say the least. But while it settled in and became something of an earworm, I decided that maybe there was a message in there somewhere. So I took some quiet time and I thought about it, and yeah, just focused on that for a bit. And I came up with this week's podcast. Only a weirdo like me could make the connection so easily. But I do want to talk to you about framework and how a literary framework serves as a skeleton for the story that unfolds, and the meat on dem bones is what makes it real. As an author of fiction, I always start with an idea that I then construct into a framework, and then I find the meat to go on the bones. And there's already a lot of meat out there hovering around me that I can focus on. I draw the meat from observations and from experience and working with people. I draw it from conversations that I've been part of or listened to or eavesdropped on or heard about. I spend a lot of time listening, a lot more than people think, in fact, and observing the behavior I see around me, and that I experience that from people, and I construct characters and storylines that are based on combinations of real people and real situations. So I just harness what I can from society, experience, and thought, really. That's the meat. Then I start to weave things together like a living tapestry that people can relate to. It seems to work. People do tell me that my characters and their traumas and conundrums are very real to the reader, with solutions and outcomes woven in that resonate in real life too. It's fiction, but it still has to be believable for me, because if it's not believable for me, it's not going to be believable for the reader. And I'm not an author of fantasy. But when we're talking about putting meat on a framework or weaving storylines and characters and plots together, it's not just authors like me who can do this. When it comes to writing a memoir or a story of her own, every woman already has some meat to go on the bones. Maybe she hasn't realized that, and I'm here to tell you that it isn't something anyone should be panicking about. You have a lot of worthwhile meat to go on the bones of your story. So let's take a look at where some of that might be. You might be struggling to work out where or how to start with your story. If it feels like it's a bit beyond you, you're certainly not alone in that. I wish I had $1 for every woman who told me that she wouldn't know where to start in bringing her own amazing story to life. But let's take a look. Are you in the habit of writing a diary or a journal? Many women don't keep one, but a great number have always kept a diary of one sort or another. Just as many have got into journaling more recently for various different reasons. But if you're in the habit of writing down your thoughts and experiences as they occur, you already have the bones of your memoir. You're already further along than you think in the process. Even your social media account, if you do use it to inform people about yourself, is a really rich record of the things you've done, the places you've been, or even the way you've been feeling about stuff that's happened to you or someone you care about, or even just in the wider context of how an outside event has impacted you. We are impacted by external events. They often do leave an impression, and sometimes it's profound. And it's okay to talk about that stuff. Sometimes talking about it can help others feel less isolated who have been affected too. And women sometimes say to me, "Oh, there isn't much to say really," or they'll say, "Well, I wouldn't really know where to start." It can feel like it's a mountain to climb, getting a story out of your head and heart and onto paper. But many of us already have a lot more material than we think we do to start writing the story of our lives or elements of it. There's quite possibly quite a lot just sitting there ready to work with. And even if there isn't, you might be surprised at how short a time it takes to start pulling together the bones of the framework to bring a story to life. So let's think about what you may already have. If, like me, you have a social media account that you use to keep friends and family around the world up to date about what you're doing, you already have a fantastic diary of things that have happened. There are posts, pictures, probably things you've shared that indicated how you were feeling or what you wanted people to know. And there's a lot of material there that can be used to put some meat on the bones of your story. That can be your framework and the beginnings of padding things out. Likewise, with a diary or a journal, you may have a record somewhere of your innermost feelings and thoughts about someone or something that did or didn't happen. If you have a business social media account, the same kind of richness exists in there. Details of what you've worked on, who you've collaborated with, how you felt about the things that you were or weren't able to do, what some of the challenges and successes were, that kind of thing. All of that stuff is valuable in fleshing out your story. It probably doesn't contain a lot of guts in terms of exploring the real nitty-gritty of what you may have been dealing with or going through and how you felt about it, but it's a really good starting point that acts as the trigger for your recall. Friends and family members are a great source of that too. Maybe if you're looking for inspiration about where to start, you could ask someone close to you who you trust to tell you something they've seen you dealing with either well or badly in the past. They can maybe tell you what their thoughts and observations were around that. And some of that perspective can be really valuable in encouraging you to explore things that maybe you'd forgotten about or tried to deny or minimize the impact of. Likewise, with the tough stuff, friends and family can also offer perspective on the amazing stuff, the wonderful stuff that happened to or for or around you, that you also may have minimized or didn't give its rightful space as a source of joy in your life. Some women find that they don't want to start their stories as a chronological series of events. A few want to start with a simple event or thought that they had and then took them on a journey of some kind. For one woman, it was the discovery that she had a form of neurodivergence that finally answered a lot of her questions about herself. For another, it was becoming ill in midlife and having to pull back from a stressful career and more or less accidentally discovering a wonderful talent, a passion for painting that she never knew she possessed. For another, it was finding out that her husband of 34 years had been having an affair for 10 of those years. For another, it was simply waking up one morning and knowing she wanted a different life. Those women's stories were all very different, but they all shared a commonality. They all used what they perceived as a significant life event as their initial springboard. The process of bringing a story to life is different for every woman. There's no one blueprint in existence that suits everyone. There's no real formula for telling the story of a human life. Each story is unique and authentic because there's no formula. Some women put themselves under a lot of pressure to already know exactly what they want to write about in advance. But let me tell you something else about the process of writing. It unfolds and finds its own momentum as you go along. Forget feeling like you have to have all the bullet points in a neat row at the outset to cover what you want to say. That is not how the process works. You might start out with a clear sense of direction, but a human life is full of contradictions and U-turns and diversions away from goals. It's full of pitfalls and potholes and the unexpected random moments where it's important to stop and smell the roses or the coffee or the smell of fish when something feels wrong. And the recording of that life is too. The most delightful thing about writing is that it takes you to unexpected places. It's like wandering into a room and finding a bunch of doors. So you choose one, thinking you'll end up in another room. But that room ends up being full of doors too. And the labyrinth of a life explored is exactly that, a journey through history and through the mind and all its emotions. New ideas and memories keep popping up.